Welcome to Your Ghana, My Ghana. Today we're brewing up a storm and a robustly sweet story of Ghana's thriving coffee culture. Joining me today is Emi-Beth Quantson. She is the CEO and founder of Kawa Moka, and today she's also representing the Coffee Roasters Association of Ghana. Emi-Beth Quantson, thank you so much for joining us in the studio today.
Thank you for the invitation, Lily.
Great pleasure. So before we begin our conversation, let's watch this quick introduction to the issues. Welcome to Ghana, where coffee culture is brewing a storm. From Accra to Kumasi and Takoradi, specialty coffee shops are sprouting up, serving locally roasted beans that are making a name for themselves. Robusta coffee is claimed as a native West African product. One portion of Ghana's coffee journey began in the 1930s in the Volta region. Today, companies like Kawa Moka, founded by Emi-Beth Quantson, are sourcing beans from local farmers there, many of them women, to create unique artisanal flavors. Kawa Moka's commitment to empowering women farmers and to sustainable practices is just one example of the positive impact coffee is having on Ghanaian communities. But Ghana's coffee story isn't without its challenges. The industry is diversifying away from cocoa, which has dominated the economy for over a century, and while Robusta coffee is proving more resilient to illegal mining, known as galamsey, other threats are looming. The Ghana Cocoa Board manages coffee development, and only licensed exporters can sell raw green coffee beans outside the country. But coffee roasters face no restrictions on exporting their finished products, making them key players in the industry's growth. Meet Kwesi Osei-Kwesi, founder of Jamestown Coffee Roasters and president of the Coffee Roasters Association of Ghana. His company sources beans from the Volta region, where high altitude and careful processing result in a more flavorful cup. Osei-Kwesi's passion for quality and transparency has made Jamestown Coffee Roasters a leader in the industry. Killian Walsh, owner of Gold Coast Coffee Roasters, grows his own coffee, giving him more control over the value chain. When Arabica coffee proved difficult to grow in Ghana's climate, he developed a Robusta roast profile that didn't have a bitter taste. Now he's doubling in size every year. Walsh's commitment to sustainability and quality has earned Gold Coast Coffee Roasters a loyal following among coffee connoisseurs. But as Ghana's coffee culture surges, roasters are worried about cost and quality. Smuggling and currency fluctuations are driving prices up, and the overuse of inorganic fertilizer is impacting the health of coffee trees. Nevertheless, consumers are driving the demand for quality coffee, and companies are responding. From La Bonnie Coffee Shop to a plethora of new chains and specialty hangouts, Ghana's coffee culture is brewing a bright future. In stylish neighborhoods, coffee shops are becoming hubs for creatives and entrepreneurs. The coffee culture is not just about the beverage, but also about the experience. Co-working spaces, art galleries and bookstores are combining with coffee shops to create vibrant community spaces. The once thriving Bongo coffee, grown in Brongahafo, has made a comeback, and its unique flavor profile is gaining popularity among coffee enthusiasts. From farm to cup, Ghana's coffee journey is one of passion, resilience and community. So let's raise a cup to Ghana's coffee revolution and the people making it happen. Let's start with the rich history of Ghanaian coffee. Emi-Beth, can you tell us about Kawa Moka's journey and what you're doing to empower women farmers?
Right. So Kawa Moka started, well, I call it baby Kawa Moka, but in 2007, when I was in my final year at Ashesi, I started a campus cafe. And the idea at that time was just to create a space for the students to hang out and to be able to have sandwiches, some coffee. But of course, at the time, I had no money. So I couldn't, I did what everybody does, which is the instant coffee. And I had a Kenyan friend at the time who kept complaining about how, Ghana coffee. Why do we only have instant coffee? And we should come to Kenya and see what the real stuff looks like. So that's how my journey into coffee began. I took a trip to Kenya, so the plantations, how they also, as tea drinkers, had become coffee drinkers over 2 decades, and they were using their own coffee locally. I was inspired by that. So I ran my cafe for 2 years, and then I went on to work with PricewaterhouseCoopers. I actually was working with PricewaterhouseCoopers one of the years I was running the cafe. And so I did that.
As an accountant?
As an accountant. I read my CCAs, passed that, chartered. And I did that for 6 years, so 4 years in Ghana. And coincidentally, they seconded me to Kenya again. So while I was in Kenya for 2 years, I was, imbibed in that culture again. And I was like, I could see this, storm brewing and heading towards West Africa. It's happened in East Africa. It had happened in Southern Africa. Yeah. And I believe the time was ripe for West Africa. So I moved back and then started a cafe called Kawa Moka.
Kawa Moka.
Yes.
And you said you started your first venture in 2006.
And yes,
2006. That actually makes you probably the pioneer of the current coffee surge.
Definitely one of.
Because coffee had kind of died out in Ghanaian culture, had it not?
That is true.
And then we see now, like the leaders in the field today, perhaps Jamestown coffee roasters and Gold Coast coffee roasters. Yeah. They started much later than that.
Yes. So over the last 7 years, which has been great, we've seen an influx of a lot of roasters. And for me, that's a great testament for the coffee culture in Ghana, because that comes with cafes. That comes with the ability to have people to taste Ghana coffee, which has been amazing.
And it's amazing to have you on today. I wasn't able to speak to you in time for the article which appeared in the Daily Graphic earlier this week, though I did speak to your colleagues.
It was beautifully written.
Oh, thank you very much. Jamestown Coffee Roasters and Gold Coast Coffee Roasters. Yeah. So I'm very happy that we have you in today to talk about that other side of the story. We didn't get the full picture on. But what I did find on your website was some interesting claims.
I know.
Some very interesting claims that Robusta is Ghanaian. Robusta is Ghanaian, you say, and you trace the origins. Actually, Cocoa Board, which manages coffee in Ghana, on their website, they say that coffee was introduced by missionaries in the 18th century. You say that Robusta is Ghanaian. Tell me, what is the evidence that Robusta is Ghanaian?
If you trace the origins, and I did quite a bit of research, because you'll see from our name, Kawa Moka, that actually talks about the wine of the bean.
Yes, tell us about your name first, Kawa Moka.
So Kawa Moka means wine of the bean.
Wine of the bean.
It's Arabic.
What language?
Yes, and you'll see various variations of that across, Africa, across the world. Kawa, Kahawa, and it's all, in reference to coffee and coffee origins. And Moka is a play on two things. The port of Moka, which is based in Yemen, which in the olden days was a central port for exporting coffee all across the world. And then Moka is also a play on the taste of the coffee, which is like chocolate, a bit of hazelnut, and a bit of spice. So that's our unique taste profile for Robusta coffee.
For Robusta generally?
Yes, generally. In West Africa.
In West Africa. A chocolatey taste.
Yes.
With a bit of cinnamon.
Yeah, with a bit of nut.
A bit of nut.
Yeah, and spice.
And spice.
Yes.
Wow.
So depending on how the roast is and how the bean is, that spice could be different things. It could be cinnamon, it could be pepper, so you have quite a bit of flavors in there. It's very rich in the mouth.
Well, we've been talking about coffee and chocolate over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And one of our chocolate producers brought in some samples. We'll look at yours just now. And one of them that she left behind was roasted coffee beans.
Yes.
Robusta beans covered in chocolate.
We actually worked on that together.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh, then you know who I'm talking about.
Because those were my beans that she used for the original ones, and it was a thing that we had talked about. I
bought them for my brother for his birthday because he loves coffee, and really such an excellent product. That's what made me interested in now coming on to the story.
Yeah. So if you trace the origins, and I was talking about the name to just show there's a lot of research that's been written about it. Right. And it's indigenous to Central and West Africa. So you'll see in the Congo, they have something similar, which they call petit quilou.
I see.
So Petit Quilou has the features of Robusta, but it's a very sweet and tiny bean. So you can see that over the years, it's a plant that we've had. But then, it's a question of how it was discovered. How do people know that, there was coffee bean? So there are influxes of, missionaries from Togo, the foreigners as well bringing plants because they wanted to drink coffee. And then that's how the culture then started, or the recognition for the plants first started. But we found the plants. The plants, wasn't brought in as you would have with cocoa or other such.
Right. Yeah.
It is indigenous to West Africa. It's also grown in Brazil and in Asia as well. Yeah.
In many tropical climates.
Yes.
And so then to the question of why the Volta region?
Yeah. It has great soil, great altitudes, which are very good for Robusta.
High altitudes favor coffee generally.
Generally. Yes. So that's why we go to the Volta. I'm also from the Volta, so it was a natural inclination to go to your root, so to speak. So that's how we started on the journey.
Okay.
I do recall that I was doing a course with WELA. The WELA, that's Women in Entrepreneurship and Leadership in Africa. It's run by the China-Europe International Business School. And one of my course mates at the time, Gifty Tete, she would talk about how when she was young, they used to run across, plantations. They had all these farms, and there was a particular tree with a particular fruit that they would, chew. Exactly. And she talked about how it was sweet. And then she's like, I think it was coffee.
The coffee cherry.
Exactly. She was like, I think it was coffee. So you should go to my village and explore that area. I'm sure they have a lot of coffee. She came from Ve, and Ve happens to be next to Leklebi. So that's how we started working with Leklebi. They have a very progressive chief, and we went and met with him and said we wanted to work with farmers. We wanted to encourage the growth of coffee, and since they had already been growing coffee, we'd like to purchase what they do have and improve on the yield. So that started our relationship with Leklebi, and particularly the women farmers in Leklebi.
Okay, so why particularly the women farmers?
As a woman myself, it's always been, dear to my heart to involve women because you see the impact that happens. I've seen it with my mom, I've seen it with my grandma, just that, passing on of generational impacts, whether it's through economic empowerment, whether it's through learning a skill. So I was really passionate about that, and especially about the young girls who sometimes don't see any other opportunities. So you'll find there's a bit of early child marriage. So they, get pregnant early, they don't complete school. So this is also a way of encouraging, alternative incomes and options and pathways for the young girls in Leklebi.
So the impact on whole families and communities as a result of working with women.
Exactly. And I must say they also pay more attention to picking and sorting of the coffee.
Is that so?
Because that has a big impact on the flavor of the cup. So you want to make sure that you're picking the red cherries. Sometimes, people strip the trees and then you have green coffee in the ripe, and that's how you sometimes get that bitter taste. But if you're picking properly, drying properly, you do get all the sweet notes in your cup, and that's what we aim for.
So the redder the cherry, the riper the coffee bean.
Yes, there's a proper, yes, it can be too ripe.
Sweeter the
yes, but you want it at a particular time.
Too ripe, does it taste putrid?
Yes, exactly. Then you get a bit more sour notes. Yeah.
Does it become alcoholic? Or?
Yeah, acidity is higher.
Okay.
Yes, as well. Yes.
Okay. Well, coffee is grown in quite a few regions. I think about 10 regions in Ghana, but it does seem that the Volta region is particularly popular among coffee roasters.
Yes.
That's to do with the altitude that you mentioned.
Yes, and also the soil. The terroir also lends its flavor to the cup. So those influence it quite a bit.
Robusta is the coffee we grow in Ghana, but Arabica particularly likes the higher altitudes.
Correct.
Have you ever tried have you worked with any Arabica producers in Ghana? Are there any?
There are a few who have tried, and to varying results. It's a bit less robust, so more prone to disease, and you have to be very particular with the bean, especially in the climate. But there have been a few successes with Arabica on a limited production basis. Our highest points are about 900 feet, And
exactly. I've climbed it twice.
Yeah, I've climbed it once. I don't know how you did it twice.
Is amazing. Okay.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
Fantastic.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. So generally Arabica tends to start growing from 1,200 feet. So we're slightly below.
Right.
But now with a lot of, I've been to places where they don't grow coffee and they're trying to grow coffee artificially. So I do believe it is possible that we may have Arabica. But for me, I'm like, why do we want Arabica when we have a great
something unique?
Exactly.
But there's Robusta now, which has been developed in Togo.
Yes.
Although I hear also Cote d'Ivoire.
Ivory Coast, yes.
Which is a hybrid of Arabica and Robusta.
Yeah.
Have you played with it? Have you experimented?
We started with Robusta, but it's also hard to find. It's because depending on what the seedlings or the clones are being distributed by Cocoa Board, you'll find that there are different varieties and they keep trying to improve on the yield, on the taste of the cup. So as Cocoa Board does more research, Craig and the SPDs, all the agencies working on the coffee, you'll find that they improve the taste of the cup. So Robusta is still, in limited quantities in that sense. But it's similar, I would say its profile is similar to Petit Quilou, where you have a bit of the tiny beans, but they're sweeter as well. Yes.
Robusta beans are smaller than Arabica generally.
They tend to be. They tend to be. Arabicas tend to be bigger. And these are some of the things we advocate, as part of CRAG, as part of the Specialty Coffee Association, is recognizing Robusta for what it offers and not necessarily in comparison to. Because if the assumption is the bigger the size, the better the taste, that may not necessarily be true for Robusta. So it's more understanding the bean and how you can bring out the best qualities in that bean.
Okay, and I didn't mention that at the beginning. You're also a member of the board of the Specialty Coffee Association, is it?
Yes.
What is it? An international association?
It's the largest association of coffee professionals globally, and it's committed to improving the quality and dissemination of education on coffee.
Okay, and you're the first Ghanaian on their board.
Yes.
What does that bring to the industry in Ghana?
I think it's brought a lot of recognition for Robusta. We've been asked to bring Robusta samples, for example, to be included in the coffee flavor wheel. That's really huge because that's what a lot of the professionals use in developing the taste and describing the quality. So it's another step closer to inclusion of Robusta globally.
Because there's a prejudice towards Arabica.
Generally speaking, yes.
A consumer preference.
Yes.
Because it's sweeter or more delicate in flavor.
Yes, depending on what your taste preferences are. Yes.
But is Ghana now seen as a serious coffee producer or not yet? What will it take for us to be up there?
I think Ghana coffee will probably mostly be niche. I don't think we're going to be a huge producer like Brazil or Vietnam.
Ethiopia, we should.
Yeah, Ethiopia. Well, Ethiopia is way up there.
Of coffee.
Yes, and they don't even want to export their coffee because they drink so much.
People love it
yes,
so much.
They have a huge coffee culture, and
I understand they're fighting for Arabica to be renamed Ethiopia.
Yeah,
Ethiopica, is it? Because
it comes from
they have a very serious claim to it being first grown.
The originations, I think it speaks to the recognition, because a lot of times the producers get the lowest in the value chain. They get paid the least, they do most of the work. So it continues in a country like Ethiopia where there's more local consumption, you can actually have more impact on the value chain. And it's the same we're trying to do in Ghana, where we're encouraging more Ghanaian-owned cafes that use Ghanaian coffee, or at least cafes in Ghana using Ghanaian coffee, because that's the best way to bolster the industry and to ensure that farmers also can get more benefit from the coffee that they grow.
And talking about the value chain, I spoke to one of your colleagues earlier this week, Killian Walsh, and he is growing his own coffee. It doesn't seem that many roasters actually grow their own coffee. You work with outgrowers, do you?
Yes, I work with outgrowers.
So would you consider yourself to be a coffee grower?
No.
No.
You
work with outgrowers.
I work with outgrowers.
But he grows his own coffee.
Yes.
Why is there not more interest among roasters in growing their coffee? Because then you can control the whole value chain.
I think in an ideal world, there would be everybody doing something different along the value chain. So you'll have your producers, you'd have your aggregators that are able to buy and sort according to quality. You'll have your roasters who are doing more the value addition, and then distribution, But because it's a burgeoning industry,
Yeah.
you'll find that to be able to teach what you need to do to make the quality better and to increase yield, it does make sense to be able to be involved in production. We do that differently in the sense of training the farmers rather than necessarily growing ourselves.
That's Kawa Moka.
Yes, that's Kawa Moka. And then Kriapim as well, they have a huge movement for youth. One of our CRAG members is also driving that in a Kriapim that has Sili. So they work with young people as well as the local community to ensure that, you know, they're growing more coffee and then they're also able to purchase from them.
And
So that's-
CRAG, as the Roasters Association,
Yes.
does it take interest in what the producers, does it support producers too?
Yes, but our main focus is on the market. So you'll find this year, and I'm probably spilling the beans.
Spill them, and then come and tell us what all these beans are. Yes.
Sure, we'll do. We're working on different initiatives to create the awareness of Ghana coffee, and that includes a coffee festival which we're working on
Here in Ghana?
Here in Ghana, yes. And there are also baristas like Barista Mike,
Your
young
barista,
people,
we'll
yes,
come to him in a moment.
young people who are very enthusiastic about coffee and understand the value it could bring as a career, whether that's through training schools, whether that's through performing their own skill sets in doing latte arts and being able to create great coffee. And for us, that's something as CRAG that we're very interested in because that is the future of Ghana. That is the future of young people. So these are some of the things that as a Roasters Association, we are working together to create in the industry.
Yeah, so you talked about that burgeoning of coffee shops, the coffee presence now in Ghana, not just in Accra, in other capitals, Kumasi, Takoradi.
It's exciting.
It's very exciting.
Back then it was just Cappuccino, you know, Franca, who had her cafe in airport, and she had sandwiches and she had coffee, and I'd say she was one of the pioneers as well of Ghana coffee.
When was she there?
She's been around a while.
And then there was that Bonnie coffee shop, which wasn't actually producing coffee.
Exactly.
But it had the name.
Yes.
The brand was up there.
Yes.
And so, so there's these coffee specialty shops everywhere now,
Yes.
you know, opening all the time. And as we can see, your products are also diversifying. Tell us what's in these different
So we're really passionate about bringing West Africa to the world.
Yes.
And one of the ways we found to do that is to infuse with indigenous flavors. So we have ginger coffee, prekese coffee.
Wow.
I'm sure with your chocolate, you would have seen the prekese. So that's
also has prekese chocolate.
Yes, so
right,
that's from our coffee as well. It has a bit of, yes.
Okay,
and so it's ginger, prekese, dawa dawa, moringa, and that's for us to highlight, you know, the goodness that comes from Africa, and also the health benefits of some of these natural, indigenous ingredients that we use in our meals and as healing. Prekese is good for high blood pressure. Dawa dawa is good for autoimmune system boosting. Ginger, as we know, is good for colds. Moringa is a superfood. You don't need to say much about that. So that's what we do. We have the flavors. And then this is our leklebi. So this is a single origin. Yes.
Leklebi is an area of the Volta region.
Yes, correct.
Where you believe coffee originated.
No,
in the Volta region.
I wouldn't claim that it originated there, but it definitely has what we believe is some of the best beans in Ghana, because they pay attention to the cultivation. It's where we also work with the women. Yes.
Okay.
So leklebi is our signature pack where we work, and then Volta is the other enclaves where we work as well. So also
Volta,
across the region.
Roast.
Yes. And then we have a dark roast. So coffee works in, you know, different types of roasts. You have a dark roast, which goes really well with milk. And conversely has the least caffeine, even though people think it's the other way around. Yes, the darker it goes, the less the caffeine. Okay. And then we have the medium roast. So generally, if you want to taste the real flavors of the coffee bean, you want to do the medium roast. The medium roast is really good on a pour over. It's good on a French press, and then you can have it at home as well. And then you have the light roast, which is a bit more tea-like.
Is this the light roast?
No, I don't think we have a pack here, but it's one of the roasts that we do.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have the light roast as well. It's more tea-light, it's lighter, and it has more caffeine. So I'd say it definitely has some tones of green tea, perhaps in there. Yes. So that's
well, I mean, it's an amazing story. It's a very vibrant story, but it's not without its challenges. As I understand from the president of CRA, that's Kwesi, Kwesi. He talked about some of the challenges as problems of smuggling, unstable, the pricing issues, the currency fluctuations are a major problem. Prices have jumped a lot in the last few years. And there are also problems that were alluded to by Gold Coast roasters are the environmental problems, the problems of overuse of chemical fertilizers and so forth, the effect on bees and the environment. What are you as an association and also as a community of roasters doing to address some of these challenges?
I think this is where you'll see why, some roasters are going into production to be able to, counter some of those practices. As a roasters association, we generally do a lot of training. We've been fortunate to have the International Trade Center, which is a UNWTO joint agency. They have a program in Ghana. So with the support of Cocoa Board as well, there's been a lot of training that the farmers are benefiting from. One of the things we're advocating for is pricing based on quality, because that also gives the farmers incentives to be able to produce better coffee and then get a better price for it, rather than, pegging it against a moving currency, whether it be the safer from across the borders. And that happens a lot with Togo and Ivory Coast. Yes, so where the currency fluctuations always tend to be, have an impact on pricing. So these are just some of the things that we look at to help incentivize. And you'll find that, for example, with Moka, where we're working with community, that community involvement, that impact. We have farm tours where people go and, actually see the community. It encourages them to do better. When we started, there were people who had one farm and they've grown to 3 farms because they're like, oh, now I have somebody who's buying. I know that if I'm able to produce a certain quality, this is the kind of price I get. And that's very encouraging. And across board, we tend to also encourage sustainable agricultural practices and regenerative agricultural practices. So for us, even in the use of our waste, we have a skincare line where if it doesn't meet the grade for packaging, we then use it in creating skincare.
I saw that on your website.
Yes.
You've got...
we have a whipped body butter. We have the scrub, because coffee is really good for exfoliation, cellulite reduction as well. So it's great in a skincare. Rich in antioxidants. All the things that are good when you imbibe. It's also good for your skin. So these are some of the ways. In our roastery, we use solar. So the roasting is powered by solar. And these are just some of the ways you're more sensitive to the environment and then also able to reward farmers that take those into consideration as well.
Right, and diversifying the economy.
Exactly, with the bees as well.
With the bees as well. And
for example, yes.
That's excellent. Yeah. What a wonderful story.
Yeah.
So despite all the challenges, it's clear that Ghana's coffee is thriving. What is actually driving this growth?
I'd say it's innovation. You talked about the cocoa with espresso beans. Those are things that happen when entrepreneurs get into the space, because then there's more products, there are more ways of doing it, there are more avenues for drinking coffee. So I think a big part of that has been the cafes, and also the ability to add value locally. Typically, you'll have the green beans that are sent elsewhere, roasted, and then they come back on the shelves. But now you actually have access to your own home country's coffee in your country, roasted by a roaster. So that's been a big influence on the increasing ability to drink. And of course, the expertise. So the better you roast, the more consumers are able to appreciate the coffee. And then they know that there's consistency. Every time you go, there's one on the shelf, or there's a place I can go and have a great cup of coffee. So that's really been what has been driving the industry.
And there seems to be this great sense of community developing, and coffee shops are kind of becoming spaces for entrepreneurs and artists and book spaces and all kinds of things happening.
As it should be. That's what I was attracted to. That's what first brought me in, like a cafe as a place to have random conversations, read books. I remember when I was writing my ACCAs, I used to go to, coffee shops and just sort of learn, study as well. And you still have the background noise, but you can focus on your books. And
a great place for students.
Yes.
For everybody.
Yeah. So it's lovely to see, Accra and beyond wake up to the smell of coffee in Ghana. So we hope it continues, and we look forward to seeing more places using Ghana coffee as well in their offerings.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Emi-Beth, for sharing your stories today. And before we round off this conversation, would like to have a little demonstration of how your coffee is made. And I know you've brought in your colleague, Barista Mike.
Yes.
Can you introduce him? What is his name?
Barista
title?
Mike.
Barista mean? Barista Mike, or what is it?
I tease the younger generation as being Gen Z,
Gen Z
so he's one of those who's Z, exactly.
Okay.
He's very passionate about coffee. And for me, his story is amazing. Just being able to learn so much from videos and not necessarily having access to teaching, but a lot of it's self-taught. And he's been making amazing coffees. And he's also passionate about training, especially women baristas. So you should see an influx of more female baristas in the industry. So I'm going to let him brew up some delicious coffee for us to taste.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Welcome,
You
Barista
can see
Mike.
what all the fuss is
We'd like
about
to watch you
Ghana
brewing
coffee.
your coffee, right? Okay.
I'm Barista Mike, Africa Barista Competitor 2024.
Excellent.
Yeah. So this machine is a German machine called Melita. It's a barista edition. So it's self-automated. All you need is to pour your milk here, your coffee beans. It has 2 bean options. So either you use your medium and your dark together, or you can just decide to go with one. Yeah, depending on your taste profile that you want. So I will be using the medium roast. So because it's good for people who don't like their coffee too strong. So this one, and it also has the aftertaste of chocolate when you drink.
Okay.
And then it has medium to low acidity as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's test it.
Okay, so for today, I think I'll do a milk beverage for you, so cappuccino will be fine. So you just select your bean option. Because I have my bean in the bean 1, so I'll just press here. Then you press this. So you wait for the machine to grind.
They're completely freshly brewed.
Yeah, and the one thing about this machine, it has a low noise. Unlike the ones that people usually buy,
I see.
Yeah. So this one, we call it the pre-infusion stage.
Pre-infusion stage. And you just select the quantity of beans you need for the amount of coffee?
Actually, the machine does that.
Okay.
Yeah, they've calibrated everything inside.
All right.
So if you have your manual machine, that's when you calibrate it yourself.
All right. The smell is divine, isn't it?
It is.
So comforting.
It is. Quickly bring it.
It's time for the milk to come.
Brewing up a storm, we said.
Right?
Okay, so I'll call this a macchiato because of the coffee to milk ratio. Okay, so please enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So excited to try it.
You get excited every time you drink your own coffee. So, Emi-Beth, is it easy for people to do at home what Barista Mike has just showed us?
Well, Barista Mike has some mad skills, so not necessarily, but the easiest way is with a plunger. Filtered coffee does not dissolve like instant, so you need to just make sure that the grounds are at the bottom. So this is one of the easiest ways you can make great coffee at home without necessarily, having all the skills that Barista Mike has. You could also have a fully automated machine like he demonstrated.
Yes. But normally you would have a less automated machine in your shop.
Exactly. And then we also have the percolators, like the drip machines that are very common in homes. That's another excellent way to do it. So I always encourage people not to be intimidated. It's healthier to have filtered coffee. You get it, it's all natural. There's nothing added. And then you can just drink it and enjoy it.
Wonderful. Well, it's clear that Ghana's coffee journey is one of passion, resilience, and community. So let's raise a cup to the people making it happen. Thank you, Barrister Michael. Thank you, Emi-Beth, for sharing your so inspiring stories with us today.
And thank you, Dede, for giving us the opportunity to talk about Ghana coffee.
And taste it. Such a great opportunity.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And always remember, Robusta is Ghanaian.
Robusta is Ghanaian.
Lovely.
Well, that's all for today's show. Our guest today was Emi-Beth Quantson of Kawa Moka, one of the pioneers of the current coffee surge. And I am Dede Amano-Wilkes. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and share. We're on Graphic Online TV's YouTube channel. And do join us again next time on Your Ghana, My Ghana. Thank you.
For more news, please visit our website graphic.com.gh or follow us on Facebook at Daily Graphic and on YouTube and Twitter at GraphicGH.
Subscribe now.